you know, at Max's Easy Mail, they actually said something to me, and so I told them, look, if you have a problem, you let me know, and I'll send the postmaster a registered letter. And I went ahead and sent them a registered letter anyways, and they never had a problem after that. Okay, and the same thing happened in St. George, Utah. The same thing happened. They were given this. I had a private mailbox, and I told them, I'm not putting private mailbox down, and you have no authority to tell me to, and you're perjuring your oath of office if you even try to, and you're engaging in sedition and treason, you know, and you just start going down the list, and I guarantee you, you know, all of a sudden they don't want to talk to you anymore, and because they know they don't have a shred of authority. I'm not a person, okay. And I'm telling you, again, do you know who you are? Are you going to let some pirate tell you who you are? Because that's essentially, they're making a legal determination for you. They're accusing you of being a person. You know, you want to get into it with me? You know, you better be prepared to take me over there and blow my brains out, because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to wish you did, and I'll do it all within the law. You know, I just get right up into it.
Put on your head
That's right.
His last words.
That's how I remember doing.
My attitude, and I tell them in my criminal complaints, I tell them, go ahead, send your hired thugs over here, have them take me out back and blow my brains out, because I don't want to be here anyways. And I tell them that. So do us both a favor. But in the meantime, until you do, I'm going to be filing criminal complaints, I'm going to be filing commercial liens, and I'm going to make your life a living nightmare. Okay? You want to mess with me, you're messing with the wrong guy. And that's essential. That's what I tell them. Go ahead. Make my day. The sooner the better. I don't want to be here anyways. And I just get right up in their face. And it's amazing. They blink and run away and hide. Don't want to talk to me no more.
Talking about the mail thing, when we put on there zip code exempt, are we going to get any grief over that, or do we need to?
No, I do it all the time.
And if we have like our bills and stuff, do we need to kind of go retro?
With your bills, it's a little bit different, because they're only going to send it to a zip code or a corporation, all block capital letters, okay? So either A, first of all, it's not coming from the government, it's coming from an agency of the government, so technically, you know, you have to decide, again, you got to decide which battles you're going to fight. Number one. Number two, if you really want to push the issue, then, I mean, that's fraud, okay? And you can send it back to them, refuse for fraud, and then call them up, I really want to pay this bill. Remember? That's what that guy does, right? Mm-hmm. And see what happens.
Hmm. So on things that I send out that are not bills, I can put tax exempt or zip code exempt.
Absolutely. I do it anytime, especially when I'm dealing with the government. Okay? Anytime I serve, it's always zip code exempt. And in fact, I tell them that if you put a zip code on there, then you intend to be guilty of mail fraud. I tell them that. And if you'll see the latest document, send me an email, or it's uploaded to the group. The latest documents have been uploaded to the group too. So if you search around on the postings that I've done at the group, you'll find it.
What's it called?
It's a notice and demand. Okay. Yeah, it'll be a notice and demand. And if not, send me an email. I'll send it to you. But it basically, it's the latest one that I have with the zip code information in it. And I tell them that pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 1342, my mailing address is, and this is what it is, and if you send it to any other address, then you intend to be guilty of mail fraud pursuant to Title 18, Section 1342. And I mean, I guarantee you that once I have that and I serve it on them by registered mail, and then they send me something, I mean, all I have to do is send that to the Postal Inspection Service. I'll bet you they'd be all over it. Anyways, okay, so a friend of mine told me, I was telling you about that, a post office box and getting a street address. I did that. The mail gets there no problem. Sometimes in Alberta, this is Dunelda, and that's 30 Main Street, Suite 188, Dunelda. And I never use a zip code Actually, I shouldn't say never, but rarely. Okay, with some corporations, I mean, like FedEx. I mean, they don't understand anything that's not a zip code. Okay, or UPS. Shipping like on eBay. Okay, well, you're pretty well stuck using zip codes. I put in my documents that if they use a zip code, they intend to be guilty of mail fraud. I don't have a social security number. I never use it for anything. I've set up bank accounts. If one bank won't do it, find another one. Okay, don't just because one bank are criminals doesn't mean they're all going to be. You just find another one.
Wells Fargo will.
Wells Fargo will now, I hear. But the point is that you need to not. Again, do you know who you are? Are you going to let a bunch of criminals make legal determinations for you? You have to understand when they're violating your rights. And I guess I understand it so well, it makes me mad, and I want to choke somebody. And I just get right up in their face and start, saying, well, are you sure you know what you're doing here? I mean, and just start explaining it to them. Anyways, I never provide one. Knock on wood. I actually don't provide one for work. Although after getting fired from FedEx, I did provide one for work for this job that I have over in Europe. But I'm working with they're paying the corporation. So for tax purposes, the corporation's handling it. But yes, I did provide one. Just because
This is a federal ID.
Huh?
It wasn't Social Security's federal ID?
No, it was for tax purposes. It's an EIN number for this limited liability company, but I had to provide a Social Security number for the background check. And again, these people are brain dead idiots, and nobody's challenging it, and that's all the more reason why I need to sue FedEx and Oxford International to hopefully word will start getting around. There's so many people, everybody's just caving right in, and I sometimes I think I'm the only one that's fighting these battles, and so anyways, there's people who can set you up with structures, trusts, and LLCs to arrange your affairs so that you can minimize any tax liability. And that's what I've done is these people have set up a trust. And I'm the manager, and they set up a limited liability company. Now the trust doesn't have a bank account, but the LLC does, and so that way I'm able to operate. The LLC gets paid, and then they pay me, and there's no requirement for them to withhold taxes. You see what I'm saying? And so they just pay me. And matter of fact, I have a compensation contract, and that's in writing too, where they agree to pay me. I think it's $80 a week in silver. And so that's not a taxable event, and because that's a tax-free exchange is what that is. You see what I'm saying? And so anyways, that's how that works. There's also people who use employee leasing. They pay you in the form of a loan, and they've been doing this for 30 years. They do charge a compensation less a 7% fee. They're based in Ontario, but they've done it in the U.S. and Canada, and they've been doing it for 30 years. And so if anybody's interested in that, they can contact me. There's some companies will pay in cash, and I work for companies who pay cash. They'll just, matter of fact, peel off the $100 bills. I used to get, $2,000 a week, and they just be peeling off every week, peeling off. Matter of fact, I got $1,000 bills sometimes. This was in Canada. They had a $1,000 bill back then. They quit doing that. But yeah.
Can you make change?
Really? Okay, there's Embassy of Heaven. I've heard of people using baptismal certificates to travel internationally. Okay. Passports. This Embassy of Heaven provides passports. So they provide driver's license and vehicle registration, and they notify the state. It's a church in Oregon. They will notify the state that currently has the vehicle registered, and then the state will show the vehicle was taken to a foreign jurisdiction. And there's a guy in Ontario that drives around with this Embassy of Heaven plates, and he regularly goes 20 clicks over the speed limit just because he doesn't want them to think that he's subject to their rules. And so And he's never been stopped, although he's done some foundational things, okay? So he just doesn't just do it. And there are people that do get stopped that haven't done the foundational things, okay? Anyways, he's never been stopped, and he actually had Ontario Provincial Police car come up behind him, or beside him, and get his attention and point down at the speedometer, and so then he slowed down, eh? But so there's a certain amount of validity to that, but again, you got to be prepared to articulate the arguments, and really the real solution is to lay the foundation. You got to lay that foundation and administrate your public servants so that you put them in a position where they're going to honor their oath of office. This is a good court case. This is a U.S. Supreme Court case. The right to travel is part of the liberty of which a citizen cannot be deprived without due process of law under the Fifth Amendment. So much is conceded by the Solicitor General. In Anglo-Saxon law, that right is emerging at least as early as the Magna Carta. So that's good in Canada and the U.S. because it's talking about the right to travel going back at least as far as the Magna Carta. And so, I mean, that's really powerful, and that's U.S. Supreme Court. The most important thing is to stay away from anything related to the birth certificate. Make up your own ID. That's why I tell them, I don't have a driver's license. And I don't. And I've got, their statutes don't even require it. There are people who use ecclesiastical identification. Robin Boulanger in Edmonton, remember, he's the guy that's in jail. He has an ecclesiastical ID that he uses. In communist countries, they want to see your papers. They always want a birth date. I never give them a birth date. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of any day I was given birth. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And so don't give them anything. You know, do you have a court order? You know, no, I don't. Well, then, you know, unless you get a court order, there's not much I can do for you, you know. Let's take a little break. I got to get rid of some of that rented tea again.